Okay, so we've got an interesting guest coming up shortly. I suppose it's a topic that I'm sure a lot of us think about. I certainly do. We're going to look at nutrition and five a day. We've got award-winning nutritionist Rob Hobson on the show. Welcome on board, Rob. Can you give us a rundown, Rob, around sort of the five a day? I have to admit, I tried to get more than five a day, but straight up, it's not always easy, for various reasons. But can you give us an insight into what the research suggests, what the report says?
Yeah, so I guess what? Your five a day means that you're eating 5 portions of fruits and vegetables. So that's 80 grams of fresh fruits or veg. We've got 80 grams of beans, pulses, or lentils in there, 30 grams of dried fruit. So what this research by Whitworth shows is that, nearly 20% of people never actually achieve their 5 portions a day. And that equal amount don't even know what's included. And, this is quite important because there's a growing nutrition gap in the UK. And one of the ways that we can fix this is with small changes, like just eating a few more fruits and vegetables or nutrient-dense foods like nuts, seeds, things like that.
Yeah, and absolutely. I must admit, a few years back, Rob, I made some changes to my, if you want to call it a diet, just what I eat. I started including things like sort of nuts and cashews and other stuff. And I also started having smoothies, chia seeds, having more fiber, and just trying to get that more than five, whacking in some spinach, a bit of fruit here and there. And that made it easier. I must admit, sometimes it's not easy because the cost obviously sort of involved in doing so. But am I on the right track there, Robert? Any sort of suggestions? While I've got you online, I think I might get the pen and paper and get a few tips myself.
Yeah, you're totally on the right track. I think you're doing the right thing, because what I always think is good is to have those small changes and just adding a handful of something every day to little bits of the food. You said you made a smoothie and you can put a bit of spinach in there. You can have a bit of yogurt and put on a handful of nuts, seeds, dried fruit, that kind of thing. It's getting into the habit of doing this stuff and doing it on a daily basis. And, it's not just about improving your health as well. It's about improving, that burden that's put on the NHS because of sort of disease risk and things like that. And by us all making these small changes, we can try and reduce that and, improve everybody's health and the health environment at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And no doubt people listening might have had the same challenges as myself. And there's so much information out there, Rob. That's the difficult thing, because you read one thing online, it says one thing, you read something else, there's something else type thing. And I think that the challenge I had is whenever I thought I was onto a bit of a winner, what I was eating type thing, then I'd read somewhere, well, actually, this isn't the case type thing. And, I introduced even things like, fish in the diet for omega-3 and stuff like that. What can people do around that? I mean, I sort of was quite fortunate, through different contacts, I could sort of source, credible information really, but it was a minefield in the beginning, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it still is. I mean, there's a real issue with misinformation at the moment, and I think that is confusing people, especially when they're getting their information from social media. And there is this tendency to overfocus on single nutrients, for example, or this kill or cure kind of reporting. And the problem is everybody's lost sight of the basics. All you need to do, first of all, is try and get the basics right. And that involves 5 a day, a good source of protein with your meals. You're eating a bit of fish, oily fish. That's great for omega-3. You can also get that from certain nuts, especially walnuts, things like that. So, I think you need to get the basics right, look for credible people to get your information from. There's things like the British Dietetic Association website. They've got fact sheets. Look for people on social media that are registered dietitians and nutritionists, or credible researchers that can give that information, not influencers that have no idea what they're talking about or are hopping onto food trends and food fads to get followers. So you do need to be really careful. But yeah, my advice, get back to basics and start with lots of small changes to begin with to improve your diet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And all things sort of being well, in terms of, if people haven't got an intolerance to sort of types of food, fruit and vegetables, what are some things that to start with, Rob? I mean, I must admit, for me, when I make a smoothie, I try and sort of vary it. I get a little bit of beetroot in there, a little bit of ginger, spinach as well. The idea behind the smoothie is sometimes it's not easy to sort of eat the volumes that I would like. So I kind of have a smoothie, but I'll also eat some fruit and veg as well. But what are some things that, can be useful? Obviously, everyone's got different dietary, different nutritional requirements, but as a general rule, what would you suggest could be a good place to start?
Well, if we start with fruit and vegetables, don't forget it's not just fresh. So it's frozen, canned. Also, if you find it prohibitively expensive, you could think about getting fruits and vegetables when they're just on return and then freezing them yourself. If that makes it a little bit easier, you can add frozen veggies to anything. Frozen peas you can chuck into anything. Also, beans, pulses, lentils. These all class as one of your 5 a day, and you can add a handful of lentils to any dish, even a spag bowl. Soups, you can boost the nutrition of soups. You could sprinkle seeds on top of it. You could add some chickpeas to it yourself from a can. I mean, there's loads of different ways that you can almost increase the nutritional content of your meals. I think also, sometimes I think about saying to people, just add one more thing to your plate, to your meal, to your smoothie, whatever it is, just to make that small change.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think you mentioned there sort of like, the frozen and can as well. I mean, I was having this sort of conversation the other day, ironically, with someone, and it was around sort of blueberries. They were talking about getting organic. I said, in an ideal world, I'd love to get organic blueberries every day, but we're talking like 3 or 4 pound for a small tub. And a lot of people, including myself, probably don't have the sort of finances to sort of like, to do that. So sometimes I'll look, maybe get like, cheaper option, might not be organic. I wish I could get everything organic in an ideal world, but I mean, is this sort of sometimes the next best thing? I mean, what can people do? I know in an ideal world we sort of, source organic, whatever, really, but like you've mentioned there, I mean, there are nutritional values, I'm guessing, in sort of, even frozen stuff as well, if we're sort of struggling to maybe afford financially.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't get hung up on the organic thing. Yeah, it's lovely, but there's plenty of research, really good research, showing nutritionally it's not that much different. It's just that it's grown in a different way, and there are benefits to that. But nutritionally, you're getting exactly the same thing. I think that this is one of the reasons why I think people end up not eating a lot of fruit and vegetable, because they've got this idea, oh, if it's not organic, it's not good for me. So, and then they just don't do anything. Or they might think that it is prohibitively expensive, rather than looking around for the deals or finding the fruits and vegetables that are in season, understanding how to cook those, because that's a cheaper way of doing it. Maybe thinking that a bag of frozen peas isn't as good as fresh, when actually it is. So I think there's lots of ways to do this. Do this on a budget. The problem is the food environment is not tailored towards making healthy food affordable and accessible to everybody. And that's just the current problem with the food environment. It's very much skewed towards unhealthy eating, and it makes it very easy for people to eat unhealthily. But like I said earlier, it's just about making 1 or 2 small changes. Even 1 or 2 small changes a month will give you, 24 small changes a year, and that could make a massive difference to your health. And if one of those is adding more fruits and vegetables or nutrient-dense foods like nuts and seeds, then you're moving in the right direction and you're not having to make too much effort.
Yeah, and absolutely. That sort of makes a lot of sense for sure. And particularly on sort of, I probably speak for myself and many other people listening to really the same idea, where I might have a day or 2 even during the week, where generally on the weekend where I have whatever. But I even try then, Rob, to sort of to include the fruit and veg, even if I'm going to go out for a meal on a Saturday, for example, or Sunday, maybe go out for a bite to eat type thing with friends or family. Even on those days, I'll try to make sure I get the smoothie in. Alongside I get the fruit and veg in as well. I mean, is that sort of something that people can take into consideration if you are going to have a day where you do sort of go out and sort of treat yourself to a meal and a cake or whatever, that you do throughout the day, maybe get the fruit and veg in there as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely the right approach. If you think about the whole week as a balance sheet, and then you've got plenty of room there for these treats across the week. And if you are going to buy something, go out for dinner or eat something that's ultra processed, you bought something in to stick in the oven, just have a little bit of salad with it, or order a bit of veggies if you're at a restaurant. So you've got something on there that's helping to improve the nutritional quality of that meal. I think that it's impossible for most people to be completely good all of the time. So you have to think about 80-20. And I think you've got to enjoy that 20 without guilt, whatever it is for you. And if you're doing the best you can the rest of the time, the 80% of the time, then that's brilliant. You're on the right track.
No, absolutely. Sort of going off track a little bit, I suppose, but good. I mean, now that I get this opportunity to speak to you, is that I've been sort of like, also using more olive oil if I'm honest, the last couple of years or so, I've made a conscious effort to change to olive oil. You know, you use that even sort of in salads, just sprinkle it over a salad or some veg and that sort of stuff. It gives some flavor as well. What's your take on sort of olive oil, Rob? Is that sort of better or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's bedrock to the Mediterranean diet, and there's loads of research around the health benefits of olive oil, the polyphenols, which are really important antioxidants that help to reduce the risk of disease. If you think about cholesterol, so these types of oils contain monounsaturated fats that help to increase good cholesterol and reduce bad cholesterol in your body. You'll know one of those healthy polyphenols because it gives you that slight burning sensation at the back of your mouth. It's called oleocanthal and it's very anti-inflammatory. So yeah, definitely included this. I mean, if you look at the Mediterranean diet, they recommend consuming 4 tablespoons a day of olive oil in their diet. And I think people assume that there's still this weird thing that fat makes you fat, but actually fat in the diet is really important. And if you can get it from these sources, like extra virgin olive oil or you know, a cold pressed rapeseed oil or something like that with a good fat balance, then I think that's a great step, a good small change to make.
Yeah, that's the interesting one. And that's sort of, I mean, I had that idea as well, I must admit, Rob, a while back, where in terms of fat, and then I sort of introduced salmon, avocado, and other stuff as well. And you kind of read my mind there, sort of cholesterol type thing with that in mind type thing. And yeah, I mean, the sort of realization sometimes, you know, the around the fat, to be fair, sometimes it's sort of like one of them. It goes back to information out there sometimes, you know, but I certainly sort of like, you know, saw a big difference in just maybe placebo, who knows really, but definitely feel better bringing sort of things like avocados in and that sort of stuff. Just sort of briefly on before you sort of go, just on the grains and stuff, is there any sort of specific type grain? You mentioned pulses there, I think, Rob. Grains are a big thing for me now as well. I try to use them instead of rice if possible, where possible. But is there any other types of grain?
They're brilliant. So you want to look at whole grains. These are higher in fiber. So things like brown rice, you've got spelt, you know, there's lots of other whole grains. Porridge oats are a whole grain. I think one of the easiest ways that I eat them is I buy those ready cooked sort of pouches that have already got the grains ready cooked, and you get a good mixture in there. And you can just chuck those into a pan with a bit of, you know, cooked chicken and vegetables and maybe a sprinkle of seeds, and you kind of got a meal. So yeah, they're really good. That fiber is so important to get in your diet. We don't eat enough of it in the UK, and it's very protective for your heart health, your gut health, and the prevention of colorectal cancer as well. So yeah, whole grains are definitely a way forward. If it's between that and white rice, then you're definitely making the right decision to go for more of the whole grains.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I do occasionally have white rice, but I try to sort of, you know, as often as possible, stay with the grains. And you mentioned there the oats as well, the porridge oats. I sort of found these sort of organic pouches that you can sort of add water in type things, just more convenient, I suppose, than waiting for 10 minutes while it boils.
And just look for the ones that have less sugar with those pouches, because some of them are quite
absolutely
sweet. So, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I noticed that with the tubs, they can have a high sugar content. So yeah, for sure, absolutely. I've seen the ones that don't necessarily have a lot of flavoring, but you can just throw a few blueberries on there and it certainly picks up the taste. But it's been great speaking to you, Rob. Really informative. Is there any sort of any way you can signpost people for more information, your work, or maybe the study as well?
Yeah, sure. So if you want to get understand more about the study and a bit of more nutrition information, then you go to whitworth.co.uk. There's plenty of information there about health and the health benefits of nut seeds and dried fruit.
Brilliant, Rob. I'll definitely check it out myself. Thanks for your time. It's been really interesting and informative. Have a great day and a great weekend. Thank you.
You too. Thanks.